still watching Lunch Money this Friday afternoon. Let's get to your conversation, and we have a chat going with BTV, with Ameera Shah of Metropolis, who speaks to BTVi about the presence in the global markets and also about the company's plans to list on the exchanges. Let's listen in to what Ms. Shah has to say.
The industry's changed a lot. So, the entire market was unorganized in 2001. Today, at least 10 to 15% of the market is organized by the branded players. It's only 4 of us. We've now seen patients that used to just walk into the lab next door to their houses are now looking for a quality brand that they can go to. And doctors are also wanting to stand behind good quality diagnostic players. So the market's changed a lot. I think the maximum growth we saw in this industry was between 2005 and 2010.
Correct.
Because that's when the market really started changing. It's when all of us were expanding into chains. And, it's very difficult to tell what the market growth was, but I think we estimated it to be around 15 to 17% at the time. And obviously, all the chains were growing much faster than that, organically and inorganically as a combination. Metropolis has actually outgrown obviously the market and outgrown some of the competitors as well, which is why we stand as leaders in the industry. And today, I think we're definitely the brand leaders. We're the most respected as far as quality. I think maximum number of doctors trust us for our report. People know that when you give a report to Metropolis, you never go wrong. And I think we're very proud of that, building that heritage and legacy. I think if you look at the next few years, I'm actually expecting our growth to be significantly higher than industry, even though it's been quite difficult to build the business. I think we're now getting ready to expand and execute the way we had not before. So yeah, it's a very exciting future.
So as you're saying currently that you do fit into the top 4, from the top 4 in the organized players, there are only 4, as you mentioned, who accommodate almost 15% market share currently. Where does Metropolis stand if you have to rate it between 1 to 4?
These ratings are a little confusing for people, because whether do you rate on revenue, do you rate on brand, do you rate on respect, do you rate on profit, or on network?
Right now, my rating consideration will be in terms of where revenues are concerned.
So I'll tell you from a perspective of 3 things. From a perspective of brand and respect, from a perspective of valuation and profits, and from a perspective of quality of business. I think we stand top.
Okay.
Second, from valuation perspective, second, and from the other things, top.
Okay.
From a revenue perspective, there is a larger player than us, which is SRL. And they would be probably the number 1 on revenues, because they did an acquisition a few years ago of the number 4 player at the time.
Correct. So, but still, SRL also again comes in the unlisted space as Metropolis currently.
That's right.
And I think both of them are actually striving the race in terms of where the IPO is concerned, because that's what investors are waiting for, that as to when does SRL go and list on the markets, or when does Metropolis list, because a lot of space, all of these, if you talk about a Thyrocare, you talk about a Dr. Lalpat, all of them did have a stellar listing on the bourses as well, which clearly indicates that yes, there is a lot of interest that has been developed in this space. If we may go to that level, when do we expect a Metropolis then listing? Because again, SRL is also pretty much on the cards.
Look, I think for a company to list, I think the most important thing is that it has to be the right time for the organization.
Correct.
And while the markets are exciting, ours is considered a sunshine sector. It's high ROICs. Markets are rewarding us for that. At this point of time, we don't have a date that we're looking at a public issue. I can't really give you a sense as to when.
But anything in terms of where, the next step or the next milestone for a Metropolis will be an IPO, is that into consideration currently? Where we may see it probably in the next 1 year or 1.5 years or 2 years. Maybe, that's the broad line, but will that be the next milestone?
Look, it's always a consideration, right? Whether today or 5 years later, it will always be an option. But at this point of time, whether the right route for us is to go public, to stay private, or when to go public, I think is still something I'm debating.
Apart from...
All right, Ameera Shah talking about Metropolis and also the company's plans in terms of potential listing very soon. You can see more of that conversation on our website, BTVi. But with that, it is a wrap on this very packed edition of Lunch Money. News and updates continue on the other side.
We're leaving the markets on a subdued note this Friday afternoon, but of course there is traction in the PSU banking space, and reliance is on the day's high. We continue to track what the global markets are doing. The European markets have opened in the red, and we've seen Asian markets also pretty subdued with the possible exception of Shanghai.